So how do you define yourself as a leader?
Uh, I would like to think I'm a leader that's approachable, collaborative, and caring. But I think my leadership style depends on the type of project or challenge that I'm tackling. Sometimes my role of making sure that project is successful is to be the cheerleader, and it's just to motivate and encourage and inspire. Sometimes it's to be the coach, and I need to draw plans and make it clear that we're all working together as a team. And sometimes it's to be the general and be a lot more assertive in terms of this is the direction we're going, and I need people to play this role, and this role. So while I tend to have a similar kind of style and approach to leadership, I think the actual role that I play on teams or projects or whatever it might be depends on who I'm working with and what problem we're trying to solve.
Now, did you have a plan for your success that you followed?
I still don't have a plan. Oddly enough, for someone that focuses every single day on helping individuals and companies plan, I never actually had a plan for myself. I went into consulting because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I didn't know what industry I was most interested in. I didn't know what discipline or function I would be most appropriate to work within. And consulting was an avenue to keep learning, keep testing, keep trying, and ultimately defer my decision to some other time. What I didn't realize was I actually found the perfect discipline and perfect function for myself, and that was problem solving, client service, project teamwork, high energy, fast deliverable, high paced. And so I kind of fell backwards into what I was most passionate about. And that passion has driven my success and my progression because it's something that I love doing and it just makes it easy for me to do.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's a great reminder that you don't always have to go after a career or title. It's knowing your skills and strengths and what you like to do.
Well, if you think about it from a business capacity, having a 20-year goal would seem crazy for any firm of any size. You might have a vision, but you're not going to have very explicit set goals on what product you're going to sell to the market, what customer you're going to serve. That's going to change, and that's going to kind of go with the time and how you progress and change as an organization. And there's no different of thinking of it as an individual. You might have an idea of who you want to be when you grow up, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the discipline or the function that you're working on, the role that you have, that's going to change as you change as a person and the world changes around you.
Now, was there an obstacle that you faced in your career that shaped how you have become as a leader today?
I would suggest that the obstacle that I continue to face and that I've always faced is imposter syndrome. And I think it's something that you always face in consulting because you're working with these amazing, talented, brilliant individuals, and you're put in a position where you have to help them improve something that they've been working on for decades. So especially when you're young and you're coming into the an organization or a consulting firm, there's always a concern of, am I good enough? Am I fast enough, strong enough, smart enough to help these brilliant individuals? And I suspect it's the same when you're a leader in any organization. You're always feeling that sense of imposter syndrome if you're good enough for the role that you've been lucky enough to have. And I think what that's done is it helped light a fire under me. For years, you're never sure if you're good enough, so you always try harder and you work harder and you study harder, you prepare more, and I think it's really helped me grow as an individual and as a leader, because I never walk into a conversation confident that I'm fully prepared and I've got this and I know more than anyone else. I walk in thinking I'm the least informed in the room and I better get smart really quickly, so I deserve to be here. What it also helped me understand over the years, seeing imposter syndrome on either side of the table, is a lot of times there isn't a right answer. And assuming that there's a definitive textbook answer to every question is actually a fallacy. And you start to realize that most of the reason people engage leaders or promote people is because of first principles thinking, that they're able to solve whatever challenge comes their way, even if there isn't a textbook answer to every problem.
What motivates you?
I think it depends on the challenge at hand. I tend to be a self-motivated individual, and any sort of goal put in front of me will motivate me. It's a simple thing to say and to think. But setting any sort of goal, whether it's a personal goal or a professional goal, any sort of goal in front of me will keep me motivated and keep me energetic and keep me inspired. I think what motivates me recently is seeing my team grow and seeing my team succeed. Especially as in a consulting firm, your team tends to be younger. So you're getting people that are coming straight out of university, undergrad or MBA, and they haven't quite found themselves or know their role or have that self-confidence to chart their own path forward. And especially recently, what I'm seeing is people breaking out of that shell and challenging the existing norms and challenging the direction and going their own way. And I think right now that's what's motivating me a lot, because it's extremely inspiring to see.
Mm-hmm. What makes you the most proud?
I think what I just talked about right now is making me the most proud, especially individuals that you've mentored and coached for years in a general capacity or in a coach capacity, starting to see them excel and have their own thoughts and change how they look at the world and disagree with how you look at the world is an amazing thing to see, because you transition from that, I'm the coach and I'm setting the plays and I'm telling them what they need to be and where they need to be. And you're turning more into the cheerleader and you're getting out of their way, you're clapping them on, you're moving hurdles and roadblocks out of their way. But I think seeing individuals kind of grow and progress as peoples and leaders themselves is the most inspiring and motivating and proud thing that I get to see right now.
Now, if you could go back 10 years in your career, is there a certain attribute or skill that you'd have to change compared to how you lead today?
I think what I have changed over the last 10 years is, and this is going to sound counterintuitive, but being more assertive of my own weaknesses. And I'll explain what I mean by that. But if I look at a project team, or if I look at any sort of team that I'm leading, the individual whose weaknesses are going to most likely hold us back are mine. It's not my teammates, it's not a team members, it's not an individual contributor's weaknesses that are going to be the highest risk of delaying the project or slowing us down. It's the leader's weaknesses. It's my own. And what I found to be most successful over the last little while is being extremely clear right off the bat and say, this is what I'm good at. This is what I'm not good at. And my hope is that you guys as my teammates can help me fill in those gaps, because you've got strengths that I don't have. And if we're gonna fail as a team, this is probably an area that I'm gonna let us down in. And what it does is it allows me to balance my own weaknesses really quickly. And at the same time, it starts an open and honest conversation where the leader of the team admitted on day one that they're not perfect. They've got problems. They've got their own weaknesses. And it starts that open and honest conversation that I think you need to be successful as a team.
Your advice to the next generation of leaders?
I would say challenge the norms. What we're seeing in society is in general is there's a lot of societal change. There's a lot of assumptions and norms that are being challenged every single year. Whether it's about the environment or society or inclusion and diversity, there's so many different challenges that are coming up that were always there, but they were never out in the open. And I think what young leaders should be confident in doing is putting those conversations out in the open and starting the conversation early, because if they wait until they're the CEO, that's a lot of time where nothing has changed and you're going to be behind where society is. If you start putting those conversations right in the open in day one, you're asserting yourself as a leader and you're demonstrating that you think differently and you believe in kind of the bigger, higher purpose that your organization is meant to seek and achieve. But two, you're also getting those conversations in the open earlier than you might have if you waited till it was your time to make those types of calls.
Now, what do you think is the role or should be the role of a leader when it comes to tackling diversity and inclusion challenges in the workplace?
Change is difficult. And what you're talking about are big systemic, societal, organizational changes. And when it comes to a leadership role in driving change, they need to be the loudest, most ambitious, most aggressive individual in the entire organization if they want that change to reverberate down to the front lines or out to the stakeholders that the organization touches or influences. So I think the role of the leader is one, as I mentioned, just to start the conversation, put it in the open, take it out of the boardroom or the governance and risk conversation and put it into the open with the entire organization and make it not a taboo conversation to have, but an important, open, honest conversation to have where people can build their own vocabulary and have conversation and not feel like they're going to say the wrong thing or go to the wrong territory or offend someone. So put it out in the open, and then be as loud and as proud and as aggressive as you can be to drive that change, because it's going to take a lot of time. And unless you're aggressive and ambitious in terms of what you want to do, it's going to take a lot longer than you hope.
Mhm. Now, what would you say then is your leadership credo?
I wouldn't say I have a credo. I've got values or approaches that I live by. I think one thing that I always encourage my teammates when they're starting to lead teams, they're starting to kind of branch out on their own, is to give people trust right off the bat. There's two ways of looking at trusting your colleagues or trusting new teammates. One is they earn that trust, and they have to kind of step up the level of trust that they have every year that they work with you. Or two, they start with 100% of your trust, and they could chip away at it, or they can retain it as 100%. I'm a firm believer that you should give someone your complete trust right off the bat. And if they say they can walk on water, they can walk on water until you find out otherwise. And only once you realize that, wait a second, maybe I need to rein in this person a little bit more, or coach them a little bit harder, or keep an eye on what they're doing a little bit more, only then start to kind of claw back some of that implicit trust. But I'm a firm believer that give them your trust, let them do what they need to do, set the goals and objectives and the strategy, and say, figure out how to do this in your own way. Let me know how I can help. And then only when they prove that they can't do that, start to rein in that trust a little bit more.
Any favorite leadership books that you would recommend?
I've got two. One is Good to Great, and not just because chapter 2 is level 5 leadership, but I just think it's a fantastic business book. It focuses on strategy, and it doesn't go too deep into any particular topic. It covers the points, important points. It's all about focus, and I think it's a fantastic book, especially if you're in consulting and in strategy, in terms of how to ensure an organization focuses. The second is Legacy, which I think you've actually spoken to someone else about recently, but it's a fantastic outside of the business world look at what a leader is and how a leader should act, and kind of the ethos of leadership outside of the boardroom, and more about who they are as individuals and what role they play as a team. So I think those two books, if you're talking about business strategy leadership, I think Good to Great is a great one for leaders to wrap their heads around what their role is, and Legacy is a good one just to think about who leaders are and what makes leaders special.
Now, balancing the mind is so important for leaders. What do you do to create that balance?
Lately, I'm someone that can't sit still. Unless I'm working towards something, I feel kind of aimless and antsy, and I'll find something to keep myself busy. These last 3 years, I've gotten into carpentry, oddly enough, a lot. So I might be a white collar worker in my day, or a white Mandarin collar worker right now in my day job. But blue collar work is super exciting to me. And I've really focused on renovating my house and learning different trades that I could accomplish, bathroom renos or basement renos or backyard renos. And it's been an exciting way to keep challenging and learning without necessarily reading more business books or thought leadership, which is what I do in my day job. It's a way to kind of continue learning, continue growing, and walking up your own staircase is a lot more satisfying than reviewing an old PowerPoint, as much as I do love working in PowerPoint every day.